A sunk cost is any expense that has already been paid and cannot be recovered no matter what future action is taken. It has three key properties. First, it is historical, it occurred in the past. Second, it is irrecoverable, you cannot get the money back. Third, it is independent of any future decision. To spot a sunk cost, ask yourself, if I could turn back time, would this money be returned to me? If the answer is no, it is sunk. For example, a company that spent $2 million on a prototype that failed testing has incurred a sunk cost. The $2 million cannot be reclaimed irrespective of whether the firm continues the project or abandons it. Costs in microeconomics are often grouped into three categories. Fixed costs (FC) do not change with output in the short run, for example rent or salaried manager wages. Variable costs (VC) rise and fall directly with the level of production, for example raw materials or hourly labor. Sunk costs (SC) are a subset of historic expenditures that are already spent and cannot be recovered. They differ from fixed costs because fixed costs may become recoverable if the firm shuts down, such as selling the building or laying off staff. In decision analysis, only relevant costs, those that will change as a result of the decision, are considered. Therefore, sunk costs are excluded, while the portion of fixed costs that can be avoidable fixed costs may still be relevant. The sunk cost fallacy occurs when people let past unrecoverable expenses influence current choices. Imagine you bought a $50 ticket to a concert, but the day of the show you feel sick. The rational decision is to stay home because the health cost of attending outweighs the $50 already spent. Yet many people go to the concert just to get their money's worth, even though the $50 cannot be recovered. In business, this fallacy leads managers to continue failing projects simply because large sums have already been invested, causing further losses and misallocation of resources. Marginal analysis compares the additional marginal benefit of a decision with its additional marginal cost, ignoring sunk costs. The profit maximizing rule is: produce up to the point where marginal revenue, MR, equals marginal cost, MC, where MC is the cost of producing one more unit after all sunk costs have been paid. For instance, a factory that spent $10 million on a machine sunk should decide whether to produce an extra 1,000 units by checking if the extra revenue from those units exceeds the extra variable cost of producing them. The $10 million is ignored because it will not change regardless of the output level. A typical mathematical model separates total cost, TC, into sunk S and non-sunk components. TC equals S plus FC avoid plus VC of Q, where FC avoid are fixed costs that can be avoided if the activity stops, and VC of Q is variable cost as a function of output Q. The decision rule for continuing a project is: continue if pi equals TR of Q minus the sum of FC avoid and VC of Q greater than or equal to 0, where TR is total revenue. Opportunity cost is incorporated by subtracting the best alternative profit, pi star. Net benefit equals pi minus pi star. If the net benefit is negative, the firm should abandon the project, even though the sunk cost S is large. Graphically, sunk costs are shown as a constant vertical shift of the total cost curve that does not affect the marginal cost MC curve. The MC curve, derived from dVC over dQ, is the line used for decision-making. Decision trees also exclude sunk costs. Each branch starts with a current state where sunk costs are written in a separate box, grayed out to remind the analyst not to count them. For example, a simple tree for a product launch may have two branches: launch and cancel, with expected cash flows only from future revenues and avoidable costs. The sunk R&D spend appears at the root, but carries a weight of 0 in the payoff calculation. Classic quantitative examples illustrate the power of ignoring sunk costs. Concorde, government spent billions on the supersonic jet. When the aircraft proved unprofitable, continuing production added more losses. Rational analysis would have stopped when marginal operating costs exceeded marginal revenue, irrespective of the historic spend. R&D projects. A pharma firm spends $500 million on a drug candidate that fails phase 3 trials. The sunk cost is $500 million, The decision to reallocate funds to another pipeline depends on the expected net present value (NPV) of alternatives, not on the lost spend. Pricing: a retailer bought a batch of seasonal clothing for $20 per unit sunk. If the market price falls to $15, the retailer should decide whether to discount, donate, or scrap based on the marginal cost of disposal versus the marginal revenue from a lower price, not on the $20 already paid. A company spent $8 million developing a new software platform. The platform can now be sold at $50 per license, with an expected demand of 200,000 units. Variable cost per unit is $20, and avoidable fixed costs are $2 million. Should the company continue, show the calculation and explain why the sunk $8 million is irrelevant. Compute contribution per unit. $50 minus $20 equals $30. Total contribution equals $30 times 200,000 equals $6 million. Subtract avoidable fixed costs. $6 million minus $2 million equals $4 million positive contribution, so continue. Note that the $8 million sunk cost does not affect the decision because it cannot be recovered. The answer should also discuss the sunk cost fallacy and marginal analysis.